Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today's video was created because a little over a year ago I had a pest problem and I couldn't find info to fit my exact situation. I lived in an area in which it would have drawn attention using anything other than my suppressed .22 long rifle pistol, and I had trapped a pest that I was unable to release elsewhere, so I had to dispatch it. I wanted to do so quickly and humanely. This video, hopefully, will tell which round is best to use. The rounds that I have were mostly what I could find in my area or easily online. That being said, let's get into it.
10% ballistics gel to FBI standards. First round is Winchester Silvertip 37 grain plated segmenting hollow point. Second is CCI segmented hollow point varmint 40 grain, both out of a Ruger 2245. We have another CCI segmented 22 40 grain as well. This one's labeled Quiet-22 Segmented HP. These are not going to be segmented from here on out, so I'm going to be turning it sideways. We're going to continue with CCI. This one is a 22 long rifle Sub-Sonic small game 40 grain, advertised at 1050 feet per second. Then the next one will be the CCI Suppressor 22 long rifle Subsonic hollow point 45 grain, advertised at 970 feet per second. And then will be the CCI Quiet-22 22 long rifle lead round nose, not a hollow point, and advertised, this is a 40 grain, advertised as 710 feet per second. So as you can see, the first two are close to about the same point. The first two being, or the first one and the last one rather. The first one being a hollow point 40 grain. The second one is kind of surprising because it is supposed to be a slower moving projectile, but it is a little heavier, so maybe that's what carried it through. It is also a hollow point. And the third one is that round nose that just is moving slower. Now we've moved on to Aguila ammunition. This first one is going to be a 22 super extra short, advertised at 1095 feet per second. It is a 29 grain round nose projectile. The second one will be the 22 Sniper Subsonic 60 grain, advertised at 950 feet per second. That is also a solid point. The third, a 22 Subsonic solid point 40 grain, advertised at 1025 feet per second. Did not eject the first one. 22, that super short, just does not have it in it. A little bit shocking on the first one with the 22 super extra short. We did actually have a lot of penetration on that one. And then not surprising is that 60 grain Sniper Subsonic went almost all the way through the block. And then unfortunately the standard 40 grain solid point ended up exiting the block, but had about the performance we were expecting out of it. For the last three now. So the first one is going to be Remington. They have a Subsonic 40 grain plated hollow point, advertised at 1050 feet per second. The next one, a very common one, at least able to be found around my area. Winchester Super Suppressed 22 long rifle 40 grain subsonic hollow point, advertised at 1065 feet per second. The last one doesn't quite fit in the rest of these, but I'm throwing it in just for experiments. It is a CCI Uppercut 22 long rifle, jacketed hollow point, designed for semi-auto pistols, specifically optimized for 2.5 to 4 inch barrels. I believe that this is a 4.5 inch barrel, which pushes it slightly into supersonic. At least during my testing it did. Oh, and to note, this is a 32 grain, advertised at 950 feet per second and advertised as a defense round. So here's the Remington. The Winchester Super Suppressed. And finally, the CCI Uppercut. Because I want to get a little bit more accurate depiction of what these would do, I'm going to repeat the segmenting rounds. I'm going to kind of go into the same block, so it's not going to be as easy to see, but I'll be able to report it at least and be able to say what they are going to do through a longer wounds channel. Again, we're doing the Winchester Silvertip first, which is a 37 grain segmenting. Then we're going to the CCI standard segmenting 40 grain, and then the CCI Quiet-22 40 grain. Doing, last but not least, the Quiet-22. Okay, so once again, the Quiet-22 just did not have the oomph behind it to expand, so really kind of a useless round in my opinion. The standard CCI segmenting, once again, we had flowering that went back into here. There's 3 separate petals, easily identifiable, and right towards the beginning, the center of it stayed. And also, the same thing for the Winchester Silvertip is kind of the same thing that we had happen before. The 3 petals all stopped right about here, so we're about 2.5 inches maybe in. And what's kind of surprising is that the center of the round actually continued all the way back to here. And so it's kind of a thing, which one do you think is going to take down what you need to be taken down easier, or more effectively, more humanely? And so those are the 2 boxes of the rounds that I believe are going to be the most humane, creating the biggest wound tract.
Okay folks, so I gave my thoughts during the filming of the video on the segmenting rounds. I think that for my use case they would have been the best for what I needed and the pests that I had. But I failed to go into some of these other rounds, so I'm going to try to quickly go through them and give quick thoughts on it. The first round of the others was the CCI Sub-Sonic 40 grain. Had good expansion on the bullet itself. It went about halfway through the block. The second round, the CCI Suppressor 45 grain, had a good cavity. It was one of 2 that did, and it went about 3/4 of the way through the block. The third round, CCI Quiet 40 grain, went just past the halfway mark, had no expansion, no cavity. I would not be likely to use that one. The fourth round, the Aguila Super Extra Short 29 grain, went 3/4 of the way through the block. Not really anything special about it except for the fact that it was a light bullet that went that far through. Fifth, the Aguila Sniper Subsonic 60 grain. It went the farthest through the block, about 1 inch from the end. If you have a larger critter that you need some good penetration, that might be a good option for you. The Aguila Subsonic Solid Point went halfway through, nothing really special about it. The seventh, the Remington 40 grain, was the other round that made a good cavity, and so that would possibly be a good option. The 8th was the Winchester Super Suppressed, had good bullet expansion, went about halfway through the block. And the 9th, the CCI Uppercut 32 grain, went about 5/8 of the way through, and it flowered like a defensive hollow point should. So if you have a shorter pistol than I do, you actually might have it going subsonic. When I did my testing, I had 3 rounds with an average of about 1,200 feet per second. So mine was just barely into supersonic speeds. So again, if you're looking for rounds that are going to have a good cavity, the CCI Suppressor 45 grain and the Remington 40 grain. And then if you just want one that has good expansion, you're looking at the CCI Sub-Sonic 40 grain and the Winchester Super Suppressed 40 grain. Those are both available in 100 round packs. And then if you have a shorter pistol, like I said, that CCI Uppercut 32 grain was a pretty good performer for what it is.